All right. So good morning, everybody. We still have a minute or so. So I know Tamara and I are just warming up the morning ourselves. So we hope everybody's out there and you can hear us. I am going to make sure that my chat is set to everyone, and I'll say good morning in the chat. Um, we're excited to have everybody. Good morning to everybody who's on. A lot of K's, Kristen. Lindsay, I know it's not the other Lindsay because Lindsay is my other owner here. Oh, Amy's on. I just saw Amy in Chicago. She's on all of our webinars. Hello, good morning, Amy. Hi, Dan. So nice of everybody to put put your good morning messages in the chat. We appreciate that. We're very excited about the webinar today. Hi, Lindsay. I see you there. Excellent. Well, we know the chat's working and that people can hear us, so that's great news. And Tamara, I'm going to give you your formal welcome here in just a second. But I wanted to start, since it is 9 o'clock, with a welcome from everybody. I am Debbie, and I'm one of the two owners of the Study Pro, and I'm very excited about being here. We're at that time of year where, at least if you're the school year kind of calendar person like I am, that everyone's kind of holding on for dear life. If you have a rising senior, as I do, then you're just days away from making final decision. And we as a population are one day after the hopefully a very stressful deadline that is now over of tax day. So that's kind of where we find ourselves. So we're very excited, as I said, about our session today. And I'll introduce Tamara here in a second, but I am sitting here in this room that you're seeing a picture. For those of you who don't know us, we are an executive function and study skill center. And so we help students who struggle with the process side of school. So we have very intelligent students who really have the capability to do all of the work, but sometimes things get in the way, like getting started or understanding what they have to do, or sometimes they do the work and don't turn it in. We often find that there's a lot of emotions behind it, which is a theme that we're going to be talking a lot about today. And so these are some of the services and experiences that we have for kids, including what you're seeing in the picture, which is our homework center, that really helps to create a structure for kids that to get their work done that they sometimes have a hard time creating on their own. One of the really exciting things that we do is we have a workshop on how AI can help improve executive functions. There's a lot of controversy about AI, but we feel that using AI can really help actually increase critical thinking, and you can be a critical thinker in terms of how you approach AI to help you do some of the things you see here in the course. This is the course portal. So things like, how do I more easily get started? How do I organize my materials? How do I better understand things if I don't? And so we talk about all those strategies, and we have a high school workshop that we're offering all summer. The last one just happened. But for parents, we feel that sometimes they need better strategies than just asking their kids, do you have homework? Did you get started? And so we teach this also to the parents. And so our last one for the school year is coming up on April 24th, next Friday. And then summer, which we're super excited about, our flagship course, if you will, over the summer is our study skills and strategies course. We also have a writing course, but we do these courses for 4th and 5th, 6th through 8th, 9th through 12th, and college. So if you're interested in that, there's a summer page that you can find that Lindsay is putting in here. And so you'll see a little bit more about that. It's a busy summer, and we really hope that we see you. One more webinar for the year, a good friend of Tamara's and mine, and somebody we actually have back by popular demand. He has a book coming out in September, and not only will he be speaking here in May to kind of launch the book, but also hopefully coming physically here at some point in the fall to do a presentation. But it's one of the topics we talk about all the time at Study Pro, called the wall of awful, which are the emotions that stand between us and doing things that might be hard. So Brendan is going to be speaking on May 14th. And so we'll send that invitation out to everybody that's here. And finally, as I am introducing you, which Dr. Tamara Rosier is somebody who likes to be called Tamara. So every time that was her preference every time I do that. It's not in awe and deference to all the amazing work that you've done. But I'm going to stop my share and let you start sharing while I'm introducing you. But
All
I
right.
wanted to share that we are super excited for the first time to have you here today because not only are you a national speaker, a best-selling author, the founder of the ADHD Center of West Michigan, but you're also co-founder of the Center for ADHD Coaching Excellence. And so you do share a lot of the same passions that we do, of course.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to share a little bit more about your books, but one of the books that I really recommend to everybody here is Your Brain's Not Broken. I think it helps to give a lot of kind of understanding and x-ray vision and what you're so incredible at, which is giving us making sense of what we're seeing every day, even about ourselves if we have ADHD or about the people that we love around us, that moments that might feel confusing to people, but you really do give us a way to look underneath that behavior. And so we really appreciate that. And we're so excited to have you here today. So if you wanted to go ahead and share your screen, then
I
um,
think I'm already doing it.
oh, well, you know what? Maybe I stopped my share. Okay, I'm sorry. Try one more time. That
Okay.
was my fault.
All
I
right.
stopped
You can see
presenting,
my
but I
screen
didn't stop
now.
my share. Um,
In my
not yet.
reality, I'm showing you my screen.
Okay, let me see. Um,
Someone said I
yes.
could see it.
Okay.
So thank
Okay.
all right, cool. Thanks, guys. Hey, you're already doing what I'm going to ask you to do. First of all, Debbie, thank you for the wonderful introduction. I love what you do. Uh, in a previous life, I was a faculty developer. I was a professor who would to teach. Well, taught in-service teachers, but then I also taught professors how to teach. And this learning how to learn is such an important thing. And I love that you guys do that. You teach people how to learn. So
Yes,
I think
appreciate
that's
that.
fantastic. So, for those of you who are listening, thank you so much for joining. And what I'd like for you to do is play along at home. So, if you have a question, just pop it into the chat. Or for those of you who really like to chat in class, go ahead. I always talked in class, and now we can chat. And talk in class like that. So if you see something, you're like, oh, I really agree with this, or I see this, or I'm not sure how that works, go ahead and pop that in the chat. And because that's how adults learn. Adults constantly see something and they're like, well, does this fit? Doesn't this fit? And so I'm just inviting you to join in the adult learning today. All right. Um, and now I cannot move my screen.
Yeah, you know what I was finding, let me do this. Why don't you stop share and try start sharing again? Because maybe
Okay.
what I think was happening was that you might have been sharing. I didn't stop sharing before you did, and so I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
everybody.
All right. Yep, that's okay. I was just trying to be so smart.
That's better. Okay, yeah.
Oh, and I have all the buttons I'm supposed to have. All right,
Yes,
guys,
yes,
I
because
promise it's
I
not my
wasn't
first day of
seeing
Zoom.
the slides. I think everybody else was, but I wasn't, and I think that's what the problem was. So we're all
Oh,
set now.
all right,
Thank you for doing that.
excellent. Okay, so let's get started. Uh, First of all, I wanted to ask you what brings you here today. So in your busy life, you decided you wanted to show up today. And what was it about today's topic that made you want to show up? By the way, Debbie, now that I changed screens, I can't quite see the comments in the
Okay,
chat, but I will find it and I'll dig around with it while I'm talking. So
okay.
just let you know if something comes up,
Um,
let me know.
yeah. So do you want me to read it to you? Someone said they're
No,
a learning specialist, or you can see it.
oh, I did just find it. Thank you. Guys,
Yay.
sorry.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just like, what do I do for a living? I don't know. All right. Um, yeah. Thank you for adding. A lot of parents are coming in going, I am tired of repeating myself. Um, I'm, I don't know, I don't understand how things just escalate. I just said, how are you? And they blew up at me. I don't know why my freshman can do it, but won't do it. Right. And some parents are just really tired. Um, Lindsay, I see you. My freshman has ADHD. It's a battle, unorganized and combative. That's the fun part. Just the disorganized, that's easier, right? All right. These are the symbols for today that I'm going to use. Whenever you see this dog wearing glasses, that's my cue to you that we're talking strategies. Whenever you see either of the books, that's just me naming the sources. So, oh, I see we have a lot of support, academic support people here. Um, yeah, that's I love the variety that's in this audience today. So keep asking great questions when you as you think of it. So the questions we keep asking though are why can't they do it? I'm a parent coach. I work with a lot of parents who um, really are like, I don't understand. Why can't my kid do it? And I'm going to tell you, those of you who have high schoolers, you're helping them along. There's something that's going to happen in college. For some of them, they're going to hit a wall and you're going to see a bigger gap in what they're able to do and what they're not doing. And so we're going to talk about that gap. Um, and really, I work with so many parents who just say, why does everything have to be a big stinking deal? Just us trying to get out of the house in the morning. Why is this such a deal? All right. So then we start to believe, you know what, they're not even trying. They don't care. They're being difficult. This is where I should tell you, I have three daughters, and two of them have ADHD, one doesn't. And when they were in high school, I thought they were just jerks sometimes. And I'm just going to be real parent to parent here. I thought they were just being jerks. Now, I have a PhD in teaching and learning, so I know that it wasn't just that, but um it's hard to believe that your kid is still under there, that sweet, cuddly kid that you watch grow up, because they turn into these surly teenagers who are like, well, it starts in middle school, right? Where it's like they put up these walls. And so we start to believe different things. And today I'm really hoping that you start to kind of take down the things that you're starting to believe. So this might not be a motivational problem. So maybe we can stop working like it's a motivational problem if it's ADHD. It's likely a regulation problem. So remember what our little dog means. First strategy I just want to suggest is if it's not a motivational problem, then we're going to stop asking the question, why aren't they trying? Because I'm going to tell you right now, they don't have a just do it button. Well, just do it. Just do it. This is also where I disclose I have ADHD. And I hate having ADHD. I'm gonna be real. I don't love having it. I don't have a just do it button. It's complicated for me to get started. I do it. I have a PhD, I run a business, I write books. Yep, all that. It's just not pretty sometimes. So it's not that they're not trying. We need to start asking what's getting in the way and what would help them get started. Most of the students I work with, they don't have a motivation problem, they have a task initiation issue. And that is the hardest thing we have to crack. It's the task initiation. Oh, and by the way, there's no amount of organization that can help with task initiation. There's no amount of nagging that can help with task initiation. We have to work with task initiation here. So I'm just going to, if there's any neuroscientist in the group, this is very basic, okay? But I just want to give you just a quick overview. If you tap on your forehead, that's right behind there, that's a prefrontal cortex. And that's where executive functions are stored. Um, I talk about it like with students, it's like having this really calm butler in your brain. I watch a lot of BBC, so butler makes sense for me, and my students haven't stopped me from saying it. But the calm butler is like, Tamara, your keys are on the counter. Tamara, it's time to leave the house. Tamara, and he's just very calm. I don't have that going on. Those of us with ADHD, we have unreliable access to our executive functions. If you notice, my emotional responses are there, attention's there, behavior and judgment. And that is part of there's two parts to this problem. That's the first part of this problem, the executive functions. Now, this is how I feel about my weak executive functioning. I feel like this is how the world's looking at me. Just this little judgy kitty. For those of you who are cat lovers, I don't hate cats. I don't like judgy cats. And this is how I feel like the world's looking at me because I look stupid a lot of times. I look really dumb. And sometimes when people try to help me, I write about this in my first book, they do it in a condescending way, like, well, I could have done that. Like now I feel embarrassed. And I do have weak executive functioning, and yet it's complicated to try to help me. I'm smart enough to know I have weak executive functioning, and yet my skills are low enough where sometimes I forget to leave the house. Like, I try to leave the house 5 times, like I did earlier this week. So when we're talking about ADHD, first we need to get out of the way. There's a 3 to 5 year developmental lag. 3 to 5 years. However, this is where parents are like, oh no, not my kid. He's very smart. That's not what I'm talking. That's not the developmental lag I'm talking about. Um, and my specialty in working with students are the high IQ with ADHD. And I'm just going to talk about the twice exceptional student in a second. Their IQ is way up here. Their skills are way down here. And grade levels somewhere in the middle. Okay. The pain, the wider this gap, the more painful it is to be them because it's embarrassing. And they get angry. And because they're adolescents, they develop story like, well, people just don't understand me, or I'm sick of school stupid anyway. They develop a story around this. And it's really hard. What we're seeing is the developmental delay. So, what's the developmental lag? It's in the what circuit, the when circuit, and the how circuit. And I'm going to explain those, but that's the developmental lag. Now, I'm going to share something that's anecdotal, but I've seen it at the center and other people have seen it. It just hasn't been researched. There's something that happens once people graduate from college with ADHD, and they kind of leave that support system. It almost looks like for the next 3 to 5 years that they go backwards and they regress even farther than 5 years. So sometimes I'm working with a 20-year-old, again, twice exceptional, high IQ plus ADHD, and they look like they're a 16-year-old. And I've seen that regression over and over and over again. And I believe it's in the what circuit, when circuit, and why circuit, or in how circuit. So the what circuit, it's in your brain and it's linked to the working memory. Those of us with ADHD have lousy working memories. Working memory is that whiteboard in your brain that you write something on. Like, okay, I have to transfer this number from here to here. I'll just put it on my whiteboard, short-term memory. My whiteboard is very, very short and small, and the marker doesn't work. Okay. My short-term memory is lousy. And that's actually a handicap when you're trying to learn. Okay. It makes learning a different activity. That's a different talk, but our working memory is really bad. So the what circuit guides what we do next. Okay, I remember this procedural thing that I have to do. The what circuits around the procedural memory. We have a very poor procedural memory. And it's particularly true when it comes to plans, goals, and futures. I remember one time when I was a professor, I was asked, they were going to redo our building in 5 years. And I was asked to design the furniture, or, what furniture did I want for it? And I remember going, 5 years? I don't know where I'll be. Well, I was still at that college in 5 years and I didn't order the bookshelf that I should have, right? I have a question. How can you improve working memory? Kelly, that's a great question. I'm going to get to that in just a second. If I don't, circle back and hold me to that, okay? I love that question. The when circuit is what it coordinates not just the smooth behavior, but sequencing. If you don't hear anything else for the rest of this time, just hear people with ADHD are lousy at sequencing activities, sequencing anything. I write books, and my first go at a chapter is just gibberish on a paper. And I literally have to reorder everything in a logical order because it doesn't come out sequenced. Okay, so you might be seeing your students not being able to sequence well. Okay, the timeliness of actions is also in the when circuit because a lot of ADHD people, we don't think about the next thing. And then there's the how circuit. And the how circuit is linked to working memory. And again, that's the procedural. Okay, the what, when, and the how. Whoops, the what, when, and the how circuit. So those are the circuits that are affected in the brain by ADHD that have to do with executive function. Now, those with ADHD have short-term and working memory issues. Kelly asked, how can you improve working memory? I'm going to be really honest. If one with ADHD takes medication, that tends to promote more reliable access. I'm not promoting it. I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying that as a fact. People have feelings about medication. Um, Otherwise, those of us with ADHD, we have to learn that we have short-term and working memory issues, so we accommodate for it. We don't necessarily improve it. Research hasn't suggested that we grossly improve. If we do, that's the only thing we're working on. So I suggest that as educators, we don't focus on that. We focus on accommodating. Because my focus as an educator, and Debbie, you alluded to it, is short-term and working memory is just a small part of it. I want critical thinking. And by the way, those of us with ADHD, we love critical thinking when we're free enough to do it. So we try to accommodate the short term and working memory, accommodate with strategies, and really try to enhance the critical thinking. So here's our little dog again. So here's the strategy. So when your student is stuck, ask yourself, and then eventually them. When I work with students, this is what I do. What don't they know what to do? Do they know when to start? And do they know the first step? And, you know, I work with really smart people, and I work with surgeons, lawyers, and they are wicked smart and they're crazy smart. In fact, some of them weren't even identified as having ADHD till after they became MDs. That's just some wicked smartness there, right? And then they're great. I'm thinking about the surgeon I work with. I work with a couple surgeons, but I think if one of the surgeons in the operating room, everything's set up for him. Everything is about him. And then he leaves, and the world's not set up for him. And all of a sudden, this extremely smart guy doesn't know what, when, and how to do things. Do you see how no matter how smart you are, when you have ADHD, what, when, and how keep just keep flowing up all the time. So first, always look for the what, when, and how. All right. Instead of repeating directions, either write it down, show it. I should have put have them repeat it, and leave it where they need it. In other words, don't give all the directions at once, but do try to make the process visible. So many students I work with, the reason they haven't started that paper is they don't know the directions. I know I have to do this big scary thing, And I'll say, okay, what do you have to do? Well, I don't know. Well, how would you know? Well, she told me. What did she tell you? Well, I don't know. And so then we have to be the detective and spend time and just bring it up. So try to be very clear when you're writing directions, when you're helping people follow the directions. Help them really kind of break down the directions. By the way, this is one of the ways we use AI is we take a long prompt written by usually gregarious English teachers, and we say, chat, please break this down into simple steps. And it really helps my clients with dyslexia break down the directions. So instead of, I already told you, by the way, I'm a parent. I was a high school teacher and a college professor. I have said this, so I'm not terribly proud about. But let's write it down so you don't have to hold it in your head. Or let's break this into steps. You're not lowering your expectations, you're lowering the cognitive load. Those of us with ADHD have very limited cognitive loads. Um, in May, we'll be remodeling our kitchen and we're breaking it down to the studs. And I have a lovely contractor who does not have ADHD, who's focused on every detail imaginable. He had everyone come out into our house and every sub he's going to work with and had me make all the decisions. Guys, I needed a nap after that. And I'm telling you this because I'm a grown woman. And if I am telling you about my cognitive load, I think about your students' cognitive load. They're in school all day and they're exhausted. And so we really want to respect that. The Y circuit is the last circuit I want to talk about. The Y circuit is it's like those of us with ADHD are all like method actors walking around going, what's my motivation? What's my motivation? And we need something emotional to actually motivate us. And so, a lot of you who are writing questions about resistance, I would start thinking about what's the emotion? I would just start to explore it. So, when you think about writing this paper, uh, what's the emotion behind that? And just getting them to name it. Don't try to fix the emotion, just name it. Well, I hate this class. This class is like at 7:30. No one cares. I hate the teacher. And the whole room smells like potato chips. And like, oh, so there's a lot of feelings about this. And so maybe we can just talk about, well, why would we want to start this? Right? All right, so remember I said two issues we're going to talk about. The first one was executive function. Now we have to talk about emotional dysregulation. Emotional dysregulation is one of the central facets of ADHD, and it carries significant consequences. It's not included in the DSM, and research confirms this very clearly. It plays a prominent role. And this is where those of us with ADHD look like we have motivational issues. It's literally emotional dysregulation. So the limbic system, it's if you cup your ear, the limbic system's right about in there. That's the emotional core of the brain. And it processes sensory input, which is why some of us with ADHD are like, I can't stand that tag. Yeah, that's not just for people with autism, guys. We have that too. And that's not an autism ADHD crossover. Well, it could be if you have both. But research last year has come out and saying, no, people with ADHD have sensory issues too, which means we can't block out certain information. I was working with a parent with her ADHD son, and she looked and she stopped. She goes, oh, I'm sorry. I want to talk to you, but I tied my left shoe too tight. I need to fix it. I'm like, yep. And mom has ADHD too. And she ended up getting diagnosed. I didn't tell her in that moment. But that's the kind she couldn't lock it out of her head, right? Um, the limbic system is where we start to take in information through our amygdala. And those of you who remember that, Amygdala is the seat for the fight, flight, freeze, and appease. Those of us with ADHD really have very twitchy amygdalas. And if you watch our kids, they're looking around in this hyperactivated state. Some of us, because we don't have reliable access to the prefrontal cortex, we stay in that heightened emotional state. We're constantly looking. So you say, will you take out the trash? And you get a fight response. And that's because your student's system is stuck. All right. So for many people with ADHD, the brain's gating mechanism for emotional regulation does not distinguish between a dangerous threat and a minor problem. And I work with students all the time on this. Sometimes they look and it's a dangerous threat, especially when teachers are like, hey, you don't do this assignment, you're not doing this, right? Um, or, or parents kind of threatening, like, yep, I'm taking your car keys if you don't get an A and or B, whatever. And so that becomes a dangerous threat. And so then they start to behave in a dangerous threat way. There's times when I'm working with adults who confuse their email for a dangerous threat rather than a minor problem. And so I'm sure you're seeing this with your students. Um, by the way, it goes the other way. Sometimes you may be saying to your student, this is a major thing. And they're like, nah, I don't see it. Oh, bless their hearts. They're great. Okay. What happens is they fasten onto a feeling. Extreme responses, um, kind of maybe due to this flooding. Uh, and I know you've seen students absolutely flooded with emotion. They focus on, and this slide says one emotion. It's really like a conglomeration of emotions, but then it crowds out all the thinking, right? So here's some strategies. Um, Always connect to prior knowledge. This is very disarming for the student because you're like, hey, remember when you did that before? And as ADHD people, we don't remember that we did it before. We just know that now I don't want to do it and it all feels gross. And you go, but you did it before, didn't you? Yeah. How did it feel when you did it last time? Well, I don't know. Okay, can you try to go back and remember? Um, what do you know about this already? Really asking those prior knowledge. Tell them why it's important. When I was a high school teacher, I taught English, and I used to have on my syllabus, if you don't know why we're learning something, just ask me. Sure enough, 2 weeks into the semester, I was teaching Beowulf, and someone would be like, just remember to read the syllabus. Why are we learning Beowulf? And I would always say, I am so glad you asked. Here's why we're reading it. And guys, I had a really good reason. And we had a lot of fun reading Beowulf too. So, so like solving that why problem for them is so important. And don't say because you'll use it in real life, that's do better than that reason. Help them recognize patterns. A lot of ADHD people are great at recognizing patterns, but we miss the obvious ones. We're great at finding the obscure ones that you're like, oh, I would never think of that. We're really bad at finding the obvious ones. So help them recognize the obvious patterns. Teach them how to think through. Do a think aloud with them. Like, now, how would you solve this problem? What's the first step? No, just talk it out. Remember that their episodic memory is their most powerful memory. Episodic memory means you remember, like, memories like an episode to you. Where were you when you learned this? That's episodic memory. Utilize their emotional memory. Oh, that's pretty strong too. The reason why I don't say it's the strongest form of their memory is because it gets thwarted by our own stories. I write my own stories on top of my emotional memory, and it becomes kind of not as accurate. Remember that relationships really deeply matter. My secret to teaching at-risk high schoolers is I love them. Yep, that's my whole teaching trick. I love them. and they knew I'd show up for them. The second thing I did is I made sure they had fun, and those two things just really worked well. But they knew that I had their back. I'll never forget Ryan coming to my class going, Mrs. Rosier, I skipped every class today but yours. And bless his heart, he thought that was a compliment, and it was in Ryan's way. So, um, relationship matters. And so for parents out there who are very deeply frustrated, back off, work on the relationship. I know you're worried that your kid's not going to finish school. Um, when I coach parents, I'm always like, go after the relationship. My kids are older now. I've got a great relationship with them because we've worked through it in honest and authentic ways. So, here's some not great news. Many of our ADHD students learn to hijack their emotions in order to motivate themselves. Buckle up because these are ugly. Okay. And I do want to say you can't directly control your emotions, but you can manage the intensity. So I just want to put that in your head before I go on. So here's the 6 nasty motivational tricks. First of all, anxiety. Um, so your kid wakes up and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, this, and this, and they're just wound, 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 wound. Um, Now sometimes it's a generalized anxiety disorder. A lot of times when they have ADHD, they're just using it as a motivational technique. Avoidance is actually a motivational technique. I didn't come up with this term, and I don't know who did, but procrastivity is another word for avoidance. In other words, I'm going to avoid doing this big project for school, but I am going to clean my sock drawer. And look, Mom, my sock drawer is in rainbow color. And I have to go out and buy purple socks because I didn't have purple socks. But otherwise, I got my drawer perfect. That's an example of using avoidance to motivate yourself. Anger, I see this a lot. Um, a parent yells at a child, they yell back, they get really nasty at each other, and the kid slams his doors like, fine, I'll write the blankety blank paper. And they're upstairs anger typing. They harnessed emotion to do that paper. Ugh, and you fell for it. So procrastination, obviously, a good friend of mine. I know her well. Procrastination is the just like setting a small little campfire and going, yep, I know you're there, turning around, and then it being a forest fire, and you're like, whoa, now it has my attention, right? Yeah, that's another way to kind of poke at your emotions. Shame. Now these get darker. Shame is a way to motivate. Unfortunately, I know shame well. I have to have daily talks with shame that she doesn't belong in my life. She can no longer speak. But shame motivated me through my entire college career. I had um, I didn't know I had ADHD. I just wondered if I was stupid, and I know I had to work harder to keep up. And that shame led to self-loathing. And self-loathing is the darkest. When I work with, again, I specialize in twice exceptional. I see self-loathing in most females who come through who are twice exceptional and half of the males. The other half just kind of think they're the bomb. That's a different issue. But they're dealing where they're actually dealing with, I have to hate myself in order to do better. And it's a wicked, horrible way to live. So these emotions motivate us into action. And I want to be very clear, if you're seeing this, don't feed these emotions. This is an exhausting way to live. So we can't rely on it. It's exhausting. For those who are feeling self-loathing, it's a horrible way to be existing. And it's going to come out in ugly places. And it's the why can't I just? and they're mad at themselves. I work with so many teens who are deeply angry at themselves. So first, regulate yourself. Settle your nervous system. If now I'm going to speak to the parents specifically here. I get it. You're obsessed with your kid. I have kids. I'm obsessed with them. I'm only as happy as they are. I get it. Like we're just so entwined. Okay, our parents with our kids. But I need to not put my anxiety on my child. I had a child who, I'm going to tell you the end first. She's turned out great. She's making tons of money. She's in marketing. She's nailing life. I didn't know that when she was refusing to go to high school in as a junior. I didn't know that. And I had to have a talk with myself that, okay, Tamara, you already went to high school. You're helping her get attention for ADHD. Okay. And I have to leave the results with her. What if she doesn't go to the best and brightest college like all her friends? We happen to be in a district where everyone was brilliant and everyone went to a beautiful big college, right? I had to manage myself first. I had to stay solid in my love for her and unmoving in my love for her, and I had to stay connected, but I had to slow everything else down. So I didn't start problem solving yet. I had to regulate myself. So instead of relying on anxiety, shame, or urgency, you could go, hey, can you just try 2 minutes of this? Or can I sit with you? Um, or, your call when to start. When do you want to start? Okay. Same goal, you just have less emotional cost. Use emotion on purpose. Okay. So the brain chooses based on a feeling. Does this feel too big? Is it too boring? Like my ADHD brain is like, I write about this in my first book. I don't want to do it because it doesn't feel that fun. And it feels like I could fail at it, or it feels like I'm overwhelmed. And that's my emotions getting overwhelmed. Instead, we can use emotions on purpose. Like, will it feel good to start small? Will it feel good just to do 2 minutes? What would feel good? And for those of you who are like, hey, life's not always good. I know, but the ADHD brain, we have a fun-seeking brain. It just is. Okay. And so we can use that emotion on purpose. And by the way, I'm saying fun is an emotion. When you have ADHD, just trust me on this, fun is an emotion. When emotions do spike, because they will, um, don't try to explain anything. Well, I was just asking you. Nope. Don't correct. Well, actually, that's not right. It is, I don't favor your sister. Just don't correct. Don't push. Do this. Take a deep breath in. And I literally sigh out loud, not in the like, oh, I'm mad at you sigh, but like I'm calming my body sigh. And I look at them and I stand very present with them. I've learned when my girls were nasty teenagers, sometimes they'd look at me and go, I hate that look on your face. You're trying to look so relaxed to me. And I would smile and they'd be like, don't smile at me. Yep. And I'm sharing this again. My girls turned out great. All right. They're great. They're launched. They're professionals. I remember the trenches when I didn't know any of this to be true, when I couldn't breathe, smile, or say anything. And so I really had to pause. I would lower my voice and say, what you're doing right now is not okay. I am going to go to the store. By the time I get back, we're going to talk about that. And I would lower my voice, say what I needed to say, and then I would get out of there because I'm not interested in fighting with an angsty adolescent. Now, if they're not as escalated, you can go, hey, I see this is starting to whip up. Let's just take a pause. Let's just take a pause a second. We're okay. I have a motto for each kid that I always said. I have permission for this client to use this story. There's a client I worked with since she was a sophomore in high school, and now she is a prosecuting attorney in her third year. I am just so proud of her, and she really has learned a lot. Well, she's also very stubborn, and she has ADHD, autism combined, and she's stubborn in what she did things. And I kept coaching her parents saying, "Hey, she always finds a way. She'll find a way. She'll find a way." And I started saying it to her. I'm going to use her name because she gave my permission. Maddie finds a way. Maddie, you always find a way. You find a way, Maddie, don't you? And some days she would say, "I know you say that, but, and I know it's even true, but it doesn't feel true today." I'm like, "I know, but Maddie finds a way." And so that is kind of, I repeat that and they start to believe it. So what to do instead is like find something that you can repeat that kind of gets into their heart and kind of holds their best for them. Remember, you're not solving anything, you're only stabilizing at that point. All right, here's another pattern I want to talk about. Um, I do a whole presentation on this, but I'm going to introduce this because it is a concept you need to know. And a lot of you are already going to know this well. Um, there's a pattern between people of overfunctioning and underfunctioning. So it's this huge tug of war. And most of us have felt it. Overfunctioning is when you take on more responsibility than what is yours. You step in, you fix, you organize, you're managing in ways that limit others from doing their part. Oof. I know there's someone listening that just went, "Oh, shoot. Yeah, that's me." Sometimes we do it for children, sometimes we do it for spouses, but over functioning when you have an ADHD child is not the answer. I know we look like we can't find our way out of a brown paper bag, but we can't. It might not be the way you want us to do it, but we have to take ownership. So, under functioning is stepping back from responsibility, just avoiding, delaying, relying on others to carry the decisions for you. I do a lot of parent coaching and I do a lot of failed launches, kind of failed. That's when the parents call me and go, "Yeah, our 24-year-old is living in our basement and I don't think he's going to move out." And I'm like, "Well, tell me about the situation." And they tell me, I'm like, "Can I move in? This is a great deal because I don't have to cook, clean, and thank you for your laundry service. I'm not stupid. That's a good deal." They are over functioning. And over functioning comes with the best of intentions. It's, I want to help you because I love you and I see you're struggling here. But it whenever there's an over functioner, someone's allowed to under function. And we have to be very clear on what's happening. I see this a lot between uh, male students and their mothers. Mothers are like, "Oh, isn't he a great son? I love him. He's got to do better. Tamara, can you motivate him somehow? Can you get him to do better?" I'm like, um, "I can't, but I coach and this is what we do. So let's talk." And as I'm talking, I'm like, "Dude, you have no reason to do this." Because no, my mom figures it out. I'm like, "Cool." So really, my coaching has to be with mom first. And mom, I'm like, "Oh, I know you love your kid, and he's the best thing that ever happened to you. We got to talk about overfunctioning." And again, overfunctioning is not, we do it with the best of intentions. So here's the trap. When they struggle, we're like, "Oh, they just need more reminders. They need more explanation. I'll just explain it to them again." Or we step in. "So help me, if you don't do this, then," we start stepping in and doing it for them. And this all leads to less ownership and much more avoidance. So instead, stay with them. I know you're hearing this as a theme today. Stay with them, stay present, stay focused. Don't leave them. It's like sticky parenting. You're not going to take over, but you're going to witness. You're like you I'm not leaving you. You support the start. Don't talk about the whole task. Like, let's just focus on how to get started. 10 minutes. Can we do 10 minutes? No? Okay, 5. All right, what do we need to do for 5 minutes? Well, first I'd have to clean off my whole desk. My desk is messy. I can't start it unless my desk. Oh, that's what's stopping you. And stay present and start the support. So our new goal here is readiness. When you're working with a child with ADHD, it's not compliance. We're not, and by the way, ADHD people, we can't even pretend to be compliant. I don't know if you guys know Maria from Sound of Music, classic case of ADHD. Every time she saw this certain nun, she just kissed the floor ahead of time because she knew that nun would get mad at her and make her kiss the floor for penance. So we're all we're ready to kiss the floor. Like, we're not going to be compliant people. Even when we try to people please, we're not doing it right. The key here is readiness. Are you ready to do this task? What emotionally do you have to have in line? Executive functions, what do you need to remember to do this task? Are there directions written down? And so we're looking for readiness. And here's what readiness looks like. They need to feel calm enough. We could hijack everything by making them angry or asking them to play all the emotional games I talked about. But when we're calm and relaxed, that's our best brain. Make sure they know where to start. There's so many times I work with people. This just happened 2 weeks ago with a student. I said, okay, so you've been talking about this paper. It's time you do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So where would you start if you were to start it? Well, I'd do this. And then I said, is that your first step? Well, no, it's not my first step. And I said, what's your first step? He gave me a different answer. I'm like, okay, so that's the first step. He goes, no, actually, this is the first step. And he went way back, figured out what the first step is, and then he practically hung up on me. He's like, Tamara, can we just end this session? I just want to get started on this paper. To hear he was just so stuck on not knowing the first step. And then take one step together. And I always teach students, you don't need to feel motivated. Just let's stop feeling motivated. We don't have a just do it button. Let's just take one step, whether we feel like it or not. Let's just feel ready for one step. That's it. All right. Thank you for joining me today. As you're leaving, I want you to think, what's one thing I want to take away from today? And what's the big deal about this one thing? And then now what do I want to do with this? And so if you feel like it and you want to put the what, so what, now what in the chat, I would love to hear those. We have a few minutes for questions. Debbie, if you'd like to
Yes.
take minutes.
Well, I know I took my notes away, so that was
Oh,
good. Yes. I wanted, there were so many things you said that I thought were excellent. I know there are a lot of questions. So I noted some. I think one was specifically about motivation to start. They want to succeed, to do the work. Her son creates schedules with him together, agrees to do it, then just won't follow them, have checklists, remove screens and certain things get done, but still an argument every day. What advice would
yep.
you have about that? I know you've spoken a lot about that already here.
Yes. So first of all, I'd ask, are you over functioning, right? Are you doing more for the student? Sometimes you might need outside resources to help the student. It depending on on the relationship. Again, none of these are quick fixes. And Debbie, I know you know this. None of this is fast.
Mm-mm.
So if I were talking to this parent, I'd say go back, reestablish the relationship. For me, that looked like taking my kids to Culver's. I live in the Midwest. Culver's is, a great place to go and get custard and kind of regroup and just start talking to my student about things that aren't about school. Because this is a whole thing. I hear so many times from students, I wish my parents knew me.
Hmm.
Doesn't that break your heart? I wish my parents.
Yeah. And the way my brain works, my boss, my son asked me to talk to his boss. I'm like, I don't think that's going to work. It's like, you're just the only one who understands the way my brain works. Yeah.
That's exactly. Well, what a compliment. What a compliment, right? So I would say go there, and the person who asked the question, I'm not assuming that she doesn't have a good relationship. I'm speaking to parents mostly, in general, but then go through like it doesn't seem like this is working for you. What works for you? Well, I don't know. Okay, are you willing to problem solve with me? Or do we need to get an ADHD coach or go to the study pro? Like, we can't keep doing this game. This doesn't work well
Hmm.
for us. I still want to like you when you're 25. So, what are we going to do differently?
And can I add also that a lot of things we talk about is that we sometimes, as parents, kids don't think that we believe they have the same goals because we're saying, in
Yeah.
other words, you're not motivated, this and that, but help them believe that you do know they want to do well and that we're just, and you have that. And so, um, I wanted to also move on to like, there's things about resistance to writing things down.
Yeah.
So, what about so much resistance to writing things down or drawing it out, even when experience tells us it moves things along so much more easily? And there was another one that said, my son is the same, resist my suggestions to make lists or write things down.
Exactly. Okay, real easy. Stop making suggestions. So, we're old. We have finally figured things out about life. And it would be so cool if we could share this with our progeny and have them listen. That is not the way any of this works. So I, there was a 16-year-old in my waiting room one time with his mom, and he's just a nerdy little high IQ kid. And he stands up and very like he's making a performance. He goes, Tamara, I can't wait to tell you about this new thing I invented. And he glances at his mom. He goes, I call it a list. And his mom's head about exploded because she has been after this kid and for 6 years. Just make a list. But he had to find it. So what we do is
Mhm.
we don't make suggestions. We say, well, what works for you? And
Mhm.
no, agendas don't work for everyone, but we have to have a way to capture it. So what's your way of capturing? And then
Mhm.
they'll say, because they're young and really kind of dumb sometimes, oh, I'll just remember. And you're like, oh, that's cute, sweetie, but that's not the truth. So how do you want to capture the information? I'm
Yep.
not making the recommendation. Yeah.
I love the idea. We say this all the time too, Tamara, which I love. Just trying to stay curious. And it is
Yeah.
so hard because we see the trains coming down the track and we see the lights and we're frustrated because they don't. It's just, as you were saying, their brain isn't developed enough to make that connection at this point.
Yeah.
And so we have to preserve the relationship. And it is hard because the same brain, Lindsay, I know you were saying that your student doesn't want help, the same brain that's making these decisions that are harder that making things harder for them are
Yeah.
also making the decision they don't want help. And so what would you say, Tamara, about kids that seem very resistant to help? Because we do hear that a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Um, Usually if they're resistant to help, someone's over functioning. And that's their way um of like remember those finger cuffs that you used to get at school carnivals? It's like a parent's pulling one way, the child's pulling the other. That's a finger cuff moment. Then like, okay, that's fine. Now, I want to be clear on something. And remember, I went through it and I'm through it on the other side. So I know the end of this story for my kids. I didn't know the end that they would be okay in high school. And I was really sweating it. I was afraid one kid wouldn't graduate. Okay. So I need to tell you, my boundary was I would fight them, on specific things. I would fight them specifically on drugs, alcohol, sex, because those things when you're young can hurt you and can damage you. I would fight them on that. I gave them their academic career. And I said it like this, you know what? I love you, and here's where I will fight for you, and here's where I'm not going to fight for you. You are smart, and I know that you know that. I'm here. I'm just so ready to support you. If you don't want it, I can't I can't step in. Um, to one kid, I'm like a vampire. You have to invite me in.
Hmm.
And that was my boundary. And it was really ugly. For one of my kids, it was really ugly. She almost failed high school.
Mm.
Um, and she ended up going to a community college, finishing growing up, you know, that lag that I was saying, like she gave her time to grow up. She went to a 4-year college, graduated with honors, and just really got a great job. It took
Hmm.
time and it took her owning it. And I know that some parents are scared, and this is, you don't know how this is going to end. So be
Right.
very clear on where you're going to argue with them and where you're not.
Yeah, and I really, really love that. And sitting down next to them and staying curious, a lot of the things you said. I love how you said you're not lowering expectations, you're lowering the cognitive load for them, which is so true. And I think that so many of the things that you said is really just helping them feel that you're their ally and that
Yeah,
you're here to support them. And, you know, I think sometimes the more resistant kids are, the more we're pushing to your point of like that, like if
yeah,
someone puts their hand up and pushes hard and you're going to push back. And so I think that's, and sometimes it's also their representation of their own fear.
it is.
They're fearful that that help them, would make them feel more shame, would
Yep,
make them feel more, overwhelm or whatever. So I love what you said, especially to preserve the relationship. I know that we're at 10 o'clock. And so I want to be cognizant of that because I know you have something else to do. But this
yep,
has been extraordinarily helpful. I know that a lot of people asked if it's being recorded. Yes, it is. And we're going to share that as well as the slides. And so thank you so much, Tamara. We are super grateful for you
yep,
sharing all of your
yep.
knowledge. And we can't wait to have you back.
Ah,
So
hey,
have
hey,
a great one.
one last thing, and I'm sorry.
Please.
I'm the one
No.
that said I had a hard stop and
Yes.
I'm doing an ADHD thing of like, yep, I'm going to be late to my next thing. I wanted to just say something to Krista. Krista wrote, my child answers with I don't know all the time. Um, and that's probably, it's one of three things. One, it's just an automatic shutdown. I feel like you're rushing me. I don't know. Or it could be, I don't know, I'm under functioning. I don't know. Or it could be, I'm afraid to know. And so just take a break, um, and really just try to go very slowly and maybe like, well, you don't have to know right now. It's okay. And circle back later. Um, remember, these aren't people who've been on this earth for that long. And we have to remember that. And we are older and smarter.
Hmm. Absolutely. Well, thank you. It was a perfect way to end. Um, we'll hope to see everybody in our May webinar with Brendan and talk about the wall of awful, which I think is a very complimentary topic. So
Yeah.
thank you again, Tamara. We are super, super grateful. And congratulations on being a grandparent, if you don't mind me sharing.
Thank you. Pretty
All
wonderful.
right.
So
All right. Okay.
thank you,
Take
everyone.
care. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.